Morning everybody, it's the 29th of July. We're here at Sedges for the third round of the Topkit series, or 3 metre league series. We're in Group B, aren't we? We've had 2 thirds, which gives us 6 points, so even if we're last today with 20 points, 26 points should get through. Generally 28 does, so we can just sort of have a bit of a practice and a bit of a mess about today, and try a few different things. Maybe we'll see where we draw, but really looking forward to it. Looks like we're in for a bright day again. I am hoping to get a little bit of breeze, a little bit of water movement would be nice. It's quite difficult otherwise, isn't it? But the last 2 matches have been good. As I say, we've had 2 thirds, but we've only had 80 odd pounds both matches, so it's been quite tough. So we'll go and get a bit of breakfast, and I'll see you in a bit, and let's hope we're bungo.
So here we go, Sedges Topkit League, round 3. Really been looking forward to this. So we just potted in a few casters actually, and a little bit of meat in front. We had a few casters left from Acorn yesterday, so I thought we might as well use them up. I've only got about a pint, but just put a few in front, and now we're just going to put a few down the edge. And then we'll start down the edge just to let that in front rest a little bit, because in front is really where we're expecting to catch predominantly most of our fish anyway. You never really know, of course, but generally that's where it's gonna happen. So unsurprisingly, we start down the edge and not a touch, and in these flat bright conditions it doesn't surprise me, nor does it worry me really. Like I say, I just want to give that in front 10 minutes to settle. So 10 minutes later, out the front, and there we are, our first fish on. Little piece of meat, and a nice little skimmer. Don't mind that. I'm a great believer in slowly building the peg with this short top kit matches. So that feels slightly better skimmer. Meat again on the hook. We don't do anything else down there, do we? But as I say, I'm a great believer in a slow build. I think if you go in just big pots straight away, expecting to, you know, or I'll hit it big and I'll sit there and I'll wait with big pots, you just your peg will just die on you. Just doesn't happen. So we've had to wait a little while for this next fish. It doesn't feel very big, this, but it does feel very lively. It's a little tench. There are odd tench and barbel in this lake, but it's seldom they show in the sort of Topkit League, if I'm honest. Lovely fish though, aren't they, tench? So nothing down the edge and nothing in front for 45 minutes, so we decided to feed a little bit more castor and a little bit of meat. And with it fishing so hard early, I think that sort of signs on how it's going to go as well. I think it's going to be a tough day. So after feeding that short line, I've flicked the down the shelf rig out just to give us a chance for that to settle in front, and also give us a chance to just loose feed a little bit of meat, have something falling down through the water column. Because while we're not fishing on it, we can't foul hook over it, can we? And not a touch past the feed, so that's telling us a bit of a story really. This early in the match, I think this is going to be very difficult early doors. So being very patient and just sitting over our feed, and I mean over the feed, right where we put it in, at the top of the shelf if you like, is and being patient does reward us with an odd fish. And the great thing about putting in casters is I've always thought casters is probably the best holding bait in the world, because what happens with a caster is it doesn't wriggle away, it doesn't disappear in the silt, and what happens is when the fish come to feed on them, they don't eat the husks or the skin if you like, they just mash them up in their mouths, spit out the skins and take that nice little bit of juice from inside, so it doesn't tuck them up and it just holds them in the peg for a long time, sort of grazing. So was looking how hard it is, I'm glad I brought them.
I'm going to put some bait on later, mine. Last 90 minutes. No, mate, 2 skimmers and a little tench, honestly. No, really desperate, mate.
Fishing tough for everybody, I think.
No, not at all.
Not ideal that, losing one, but 10 minutes later, still on the lighter rig, and we hook our second carp, so we get our second chance. I don't think that first one was quite hooked in the mouth. I think it's just outside, but great sign. This is like just over 2 hours to go. So for carp to move in this quick on in these sort of conditions, really pleased with that. Just see if we can make the most of them now. So a little bit of loose feed as per usual meat, as I said before. Sound like a scratch record, but when you're playing a fish, you can't foul hook any, so throw a little bit of meat in. That way you spread it a little bit, and also you want something dropping through that water column. Those carp do like that. At the same time, you don't want them to come up, you don't want to foul hook them, but you do need to throw a little bit in. And they're putting up a good account of themselves, aren't they, on this lighter rig? I'm just taking it steady. In terms of sort of match within the match time, I sort of break the match down into sections. So you get the first sort of hour, which you expect to catch a few what you call sort of mug fish, simple fish to catch. Then you'll get your sort of 3 hours of hard fishing where you just want to sort of graft, and then your last 2 hours, you're hoping that they come in. Sometimes it's the last half an hour, the last hour, but you're certainly looking for them in those last 2 hours. And so with 2 hours to go for me, that's like a long time to go with carp turning up. So there's no rush on this light rig, no rush at all. But we may well try the heavier rig after this in case they've turned up properly. But if it slows and we don't catch quite as many skimmers, then we'll drop back down on this for a little while. So that's our first carp in the bag there, but a couple of hours ago, which is great news. It's been a bit of a slog those first 4 hours. So we had a little go on the heavy rig, didn't happen, so back on that lighter rig again. Back to cab potting as well. The carp didn't stay long, but it's a good sign. Quality skimmers down there are brilliant because they sort of help you UFO'd really, because when you're catching them, the carp aren't present, but they are of a good stamp, especially when you catch them on the meat. So they really do make a big difference to your weight. In the previous 2 rounds, we've only had 5 or 6 carp, but we've had over 40 pounder skimmers. I don't think we're going to have that many today because of the conditions and the way it's fishing. But those 40 pounder skimmers have actually got a second in the silvers both times, as well as third in the match overall. So it's been double bubble as well. But they've helped us get to that frame as well, haven't they? So as you can see, we're back on the green elastic, a slightly heavier rig again, because it went really quiet and I thought a carp might have snuck in, but we've actually had a skimmer on it. to a nice run of a few stamped fish there, weren't there? Really good. Didn't feel like there were loads in the peg, but there was enough, wasn't there? The secret to keeping them in the peg really is just throwing in enough of that meat, but not so much that you foul hook or that you're waiting too long for a bite. And every day down here, every time I come down here to this league, it's a little bit different every match. To be honest, you just got to sort of feel your way on it a little bit. Um, but if you don't feed enough at the same time, then you run the risk of losing them. But there's just nothing like short meat fishing, is there? Just catches so many quality fish. And once they're having it, the bites are just so positive. Sometimes they can be a bit crafty and little dinks and things, and you can miss a few, and it can be frustrating. But if you get it right, it's just lovely fishing. I'm genuinely surprised we're catching as many carp as we are today. Um, it does feel, well, we've caught more carp already, I think, than we did the last two rounds. We did have more skimmers, mind, but all the same, I still feel with a little bit of time to go, we could do all right today. Just still always amazes me how those skimmers can fly up from 6 foot of water and leap out like that. 3 skips I got out of that one, didn't I? Lovely fishing. And as I was saying earlier, they really are a good little benchmark. They let you know when the carp are here, when the carp are backed off, and then they do bulk out the weight. It may sound obvious, but try to stay hydrated in these warmer months as well, because it's so easy to get into catching mode, isn't it, and just not bother having a drink. And at the end of the match, you just end up with a headache, don't you? Or I do anyway. So not gone down on the shelf on the back of the feed yet with the down the shelf rig, because I don't bother with that the last couple of hours. And the simple reason is those skimmers tell me what's going on. The carp have backed off a bit, and I'm concerned that if I caught one down the shelf, they would back off even more. So what I'm looking to do is just try and bring them back up that shelf, bring them back up onto the feed, and there you go. We've got one again now. I'm not entirely sure how it's fished today. I've been looking around me. I don't see anybody sort of running away with it, but it's always hard to tell because you can see the sort of vegetation each side is lovely, isn't it? I mean, I quite like it really. You're sort of sat there and you're sat in your own little world. You can't see the people either side of you. You can hear them, but you just like a peg next to you. But yeah, you can't see anybody else. You can see them on the far bank, of course, but not the ones behind the islands. So it's quite sporadic what you can and can't really see. So, which I quite like. It allows you to focus on your peg a little bit, and that's what it's all about on this Topkit League thing. Is just staying focused, being methodical, slow build, real nice, steady thinking fishing. It's not smash and grab and rush and or even having to hold long poles, is it? It's quite unique. I don't know anywhere else that does a league like this. I think it's some other fisheries ought to consider really, or even a league doing this on differing waters. How good would that be, really? Yeah, another carp. This feels a good one. I think if we can get this in, um, I reckon we can't be too far off the frame, surely. Be nice to frame again in all 3 matches going into the final. Certainly going into the final feeling a little bit more comfortable with it all than we were last year, if you can remember. Last year we were absolutely all over the place. I don't think we picked a bean up in any of the matches. And then in the end, in the final, we won the silvers, didn't we, and come second overall. In fact, if it wasn't for the top kit mishap, we probably should have won both. So You know, feeling quite comfortable going into the final. And I don't think we've, in all honesty, drawn terrific pegs. I haven't moved very far, have I? I'm on peg, what is it, 27 today. Last round we were on 26 and we were on 29 on the first round. So I've not really moved that far. Don't get me wrong, they're steady pegs, but they're not the best pegs. Not by a long chalk. I don't really fancy, no one ever fancies peg 30 down in the left hand corner. And 31 opposite is a bit hit and miss, but 37 to 40 is the hot area. So we're saving that one for the final. So stay tuned, everybody, and let's see how we end up.